Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're diving into something pretty interesting.
Oh,
It's kind of the crossroads of international relations, wartime leadership, and maybe even a bit of fashion diplomacy.
okay. Fashion diplomacy. Now, that's something I haven't heard before.
All right, so let me set the scene for you. It's
Yeah.
March 2025. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy meets with former U.S. President Donald Trump.
Big meeting, obviously.
Huge, right? But here's the thing that really got people talking afterwards. Zelensky's outfit for the meeting. He showed up in his now pretty much signature military garb,
Yeah.
you know.
Right, since the invasion.
Yeah, exactly. And that set off a bit of a firestorm, particularly from Nigel Farage.
The Reform UK leader.
Right, he's a pretty prominent figure in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say he leans to the right on the political spectrum.
Okay.
And Farage, he didn't hold back. He actually called Zelensky rude for not wearing a suit to the meeting.
Wow. Okay. So, what was the reasoning behind that? I mean,
Well, according to Farage, Zelensky should have known better than to show up in military fatigues, especially when meeting with someone like Trump, who's known for being, I gotta put it, old-fashioned when it comes to things like dress code and formality.
really valuing that traditional approach.
Exactly. And Farage even brought up how Trump often compliments people on their shoes, you know?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like it was some kind of missed opportunity for Zelensky to connect with Trump on that level.
Huh. Okay. I mean, I'm just thinking back to everything that's happened. I mean, Zelensky has been wearing those military clothes pretty consistently since the Russian invasion back in 2022.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Uh,
become kind of a symbol,
Yeah.
a symbol of his commitment to his country,
Yeah.
his solidarity with the troops fighting on the front lines.
I mean, it's a wartime look, isn't it?
It is. And when he was asked about it, about his choice of attire at this meeting with Trump, Zelensky simply said that he'd put on a suit when the war was over.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah, powerful statement, right?
really powerful.
So you've got Farage calling it a diplomatic faux pas, Zelensky making a statement with his attire, and then, of course, you have everyone else weighing in. And the reactions to Farage's comments were, well, let's just say they were mixed.
Mixed. How so?
Oh, on one side, you had figures like Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel.
She's labor rights.
Yes, a
Yeah.
Labor Party, so on the left. And then you've got Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey. He leads a more centrist party.
Hmm.
And both of them, they came out pretty strongly against Farage.
Condemning his comments.
Yes, they saw his remarks as completely inappropriate,
Hmm.
especially given the circumstances, with Ukraine being at war. Tell actually called Farage's comments morally wrong and diplomatically counterproductive.
Emphasizing that the focus should be on national interest rather than scoring political points.
Exactly. And Davey, he went even further.
Oh, how so?
He basically accused Farage of being Trump's own spokesman here in Britain, and then he praised Zelensky, for his courage, and contrasted it with what he called Farage's cowardly approach.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can really see how this whole thing has blown up into this clash of perspectives.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? You have Farage really focused on traditional diplomatic protocols, and then Patel and Davy pushing back, saying, hey, this is a wartime leader facing an existential threat. Maybe we need to give him a little leeway here.
It's kind of fascinating how this debate about clothing has become this window into bigger issues.
Like what?
Well, you know, different ideas about respect and diplomacy, right? You've got political undercurrents that are shaping international relations, and then this clash between formality and wartime pragmatism.
It makes you wonder, are we reading too much into this, or is a simple outfit choice really that significant?
Well, that's where things get really interesting because this whole debate, it actually shines a light on the world of fashion diplomacy itself.
Okay, now we're talking. That's something I definitely want to delve into.
I think we should. So why don't we explore that a little bit more in part two of our deep dive?
Okay, sounds good to me. Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back after a short break. Thinking about this whole Zelensky and Trump meeting, it really shows how important it is to understand cultural nuances in diplomacy. I mean, what one culture might see as like totally disrespectful, another might see as perfectly normal, even expected.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't just apply the same standards across the board, can you?
Right.
Like in Zelensky's case, his choice of attire. It's really a powerful statement. Remember, we're talking about Ukrainian national identity here.
Mhm.
And in times of war, that military look takes on a whole other level of significance.
Yeah, it shows strength to resilience.
Absolutely. And it also signifies his connection to those troops, the ones on the front lines fighting right now.
It's like it's become his uniform as a wartime leader.
Precisely. And it sends a clear message to Ukrainians and to the international community. Look, I'm not hiding away in some suit. I'm out here facing the same dangers as my soldiers.
And that image, that visual, really packs a punch, especially in today's world where we're bombarded with media constantly. But I'm curious about something. Do you think this whole incident might affect the relationship between the UK and Ukraine going forward?
It's hard to say for sure. There are definitely differing opinions within the UK, about how deeply involved they should be in this conflict. And Farage represents a segment of the population that's, I guess you could say, less enthusiastic about supporting Ukraine.
So his comments could potentially damage the UK's commitment to Ukraine.
Yeah, there's a chance of that.
Yeah.
His comments might give the impression that the UK isn't fully united in its support.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But you also have to consider the official responses from figures like Patel and Davy Wright. They came out and condemned Farage's words and very strongly reaffirmed the UK's commitment to Ukraine's defense.
So it's kind of like a political tug of war happening within the UK, right?
Exactly. This incident has really brought those internal divisions to the surface. It's a reminder that domestic politics can have a big impact on a country's foreign policy decisions.
Okay, so going back to Farage's comments about diplomatic protocols, do you think there's any merit to his argument? Should Zelensky have, adhered to a more traditional dress code, the meeting with Trump?
Well, it's always important to be aware of cultural norms and expectations in diplomatic settings. However, I think in this case, you really have to consider the context, right? We're talking about a nation that's literally fighting for its survival. Maybe under those circumstances, certain formalities should take a backseat to more pressing concerns.
Like you were saying before, there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to diplomacy.
Right. We need to be sensitive to cultural differences and the historical context. What might seem like a breach of protocol to one person could be a powerful statement of defiance to another.
This whole conversation has really opened my eyes to how complex international relations really are.
It's not just about, treaties and negotiations.
Yeah, it's about so much more.
Symbolism, cultural understanding, trying to balance all these competing interests. It's a delicate dance.
It is, and something else has been on my mind. Farage seemed to suggest that Zelensky was intentionally disrespecting Trump by wearing those military fatigues. Do you think there's any truth to that? Was it like a calculated move?
Well, we can't really know for sure what Zelensky was thinking. It's possible he was making a deliberate statement with his clothing. I mean, he's certainly shown that he's pretty savvy when it comes to using symbols and imagery.
Could have been a strategic decision.
It's definitely within the realm of possibility. Leaders often use symbolism to, you know, convey messages, shape public perception. But on the other hand, we also can't rule out the possibility that Zelensky just felt like this was the most appropriate attire for the situation.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's probably a combination of both, right?
Most likely, which just adds another layer to this whole situation.
So much to think about. Do you have any other key takeaways before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
I think the main thing to remember is that appearances matter in international relations. They really do. But they're not the whole story. It's vital to look beneath the surface and try to grasp the cultural and political currents driving these interactions.
We have to look at the bigger picture, right?
Right, and remember that there are multiple perspectives on every issue. What might seem like a simple fashion choice to some could actually represent national identity or resistance, or even a calculated political move to others.
That's so true. This has been a really eye-opening discussion. I'm already looking forward to part 3, where we can delve into some of these broader implications you mentioned.
Me too. We'll leave you with some food for thought about symbolism diplomacy and the challenges of navigating international relations in a world that's full of conflict.
Okay, so we've talked about Zelensky's attire
Yeah.
and, the UK's reaction to it. And we've explored how fashion can play a role in diplomacy. But before we wrap up, is there one big takeaway that you want our listeners to really walk away with?
Hmm. One big takeaway. I think it's the power of symbolism and optics in shaping public perception and international relations. It's something we should all be more attuned to.
So you're saying even something as simple as what you wear can make a big impact.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in today's media-driven world,
Mm.
images, sound bites, they can spread like wildfire, and smart leaders understand this and often use those visuals very deliberately to, convey messages and shape narratives.
It's like a whole other language.
It's a form of nonverbal communication.
Right.
And to really understand the complexities of global politics, you need to be able to read this language. You have to look beyond the surface and consider those unspoken messages that are being conveyed.
Which brings us back to Zelensky, right? And his decision to wear military attire to meet with Trump. It was more than just a fashion statement. It sparked this whole debate about respect and protocol and the different expectations we place on leaders.
And it also revealed some pretty interesting divisions within the UK, about how they approach this conflict in Ukraine.
It definitely did.
Yeah.
And it also highlighted that, there isn't just one right way to see things.
Right.
Different cultures,
Yeah.
political ideologies, even personal life experiences, they all play a role in how we interpret events and how we interact with the world around us.
Absolutely.
So knowing all this, what can we really do with this new knowledge?
Oh, I think the most important thing is to stay curious, stay open minded. Don't be afraid to question assumptions, consider different perspectives and just keep digging deeper into, the issues that shape our world.
Because you never know where you might find those insightful clues,
Mm.
right? Even as something as seemingly simple as what a wartime leader chooses to wear.
Exactly.
Well said. So to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind. And we'll see you next time.